We all know the drill. You think to yourself, oh, how have I let myself get so unfit? Why has this happened? Put on weight, I can barely get out of the chair. This is ridiculous. So you come to the conclusion, I've just got to get fit again. That's going to be my goal for the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Just get fit again. If we're a procrastinator, what we do is we order some shoes online, we look up the best training routine, we map out our course and we map out the hard days and the soft days, and we still haven't done anything days. The rest of us launch into a bewildering mess of enthusiasm and totally live on the back of hope, thinking that'll carry us forward because our willpower will stay strong because we wanted this change and damn it, that's what's going to be. Unfortunately, of course, willpower meets reality barely 10, 20, 50 metres down the road. We're a heaving, breathless mess and our body is already ready to collapse and give up on us. Now, we all know SMART goals. We all know that we should write them down, we should map it out, we should have it all in place. What we don't think about though is the emotion that goes with those goals and separating the aspiration to the goal itself and the nuts and bolts of how we try and do things emotionally on a day-to-day basis. So here are 5 tips that might help you be able to get into your routine a little bit better and set your goals that are realistic and doable. So here's the thing. Dream big, have huge goals, have big rewards, and they're the easy ones to often stay motivated for. The hard ones are always the ones where I just want to get fit, I want to get better at something, I just want to improve my overall health. These are the hard ones that take a toll at staying motivated all the time. The big ones, you've got a date, you've got a time, you've got a big aspiration and you just want to go for it, and if you get knocked down you want to get back up because the goal is so big that you want to still be in it to win it. So this one on screen is the one where you see from Mount Agung when I was in deep recovery and deep rehab and I wanted to climb this mountain, and that was going to be my reward. That was going to be my everything to show that I was getting back on track, getting fit again, getting my health back and getting back into my life. So even though this was tough, really tough at times, and I really struggled to get there and to make it happen, it was still easier in some ways than the goal of just getting generally fit and healthy. So why is it the greatest aspiration that we can have in our own lives, which is to stay fit and healthy, keeping our mind and bodies in the best condition we can possibly make for ourselves, being less fatigued at the end of the day, and also giving ourselves the greatest opportunity to be able to take on new challenges, be able to take on new opportunities and step into those roles without having to gear up to get there in the first place? The actual answer is actually fairly simple. The first of the 5 things that we're talking about today is that we always, when the aspiration isn't huge, when the aspiration and the goal itself isn't dynamic, we forget to take in the fact that we don't want to pay the price of the grind. The grind is a relentless, daily, we must get out there, we must make the effort. We always forget to take that into account, otherwise we would have done the change in the first place. The grind is the boring thing behind the curtain. Necessity wears an ugly face, and grind is the same thing. Grind doesn't applaud you, grind doesn't cheer you on, grind doesn't hold a banner that acknowledges your efforts to this day and the day before or the day before that. Grind is about making sure that you show up the next day. Doesn't matter how much credit you built up, there's still the next day to be achieved. So it's about making sure that you put steps in place that can help you get through those days when the least you feel like taking the effort. Making sure that you've got an exercise buddy, making sure that you've teed up sometimes with a personal trainer to, on this day I will show up. And it's those things that help you get through that grind, because to just rely on willpower and thinking that you can stick it out the whole time all by yourself, that is always going to be a tough act to follow. But the best thing is we can be intelligent. If you've had a bad few days, go for a walk rather than a run. This isn't an all or nothing scenario. We can just make do with doing a few stretch days. We can just make do with actually doing some sit-ups or some skips instead of what we were going to do. As long as we stay a little active, as long as we walk some stairs, as long as we do something that still keeps us in the game, doesn't mean that we've lost completely. It just means we've taken upon ourselves to take a little rest, to take a moment to ourselves, to recharge, to re-go again. It is definitely not a sprint, it's a marathon. Success is measured by, did you put your hand up the next day to face the grind yet again? And the big answer is hopefully that yes, your why is big enough that you want to get fit and you want to stay healthy. So don't forget why you're doing this in the first place. To get fit and healthy, you're actually trying to expand your life again. You're trying to get back and embrace life more. So use those times to actually be out with family, be out with friends, be active in the community. Sometimes, especially when we're coming back from rehab or from long periods of inactivity, we only have small amounts of energy that we can store up in our tank to actually do the workouts and do active things. So we've got to use those times wisely, and sometimes the biggest thing we can put towards is embracing life again and seizing every moment that we possibly can. Number 3, comparison and envy. How do we keep anchoring ourselves to a person that is no longer the version that we are dealing with in this present moment? We keep looking back at that real mystical person that we wish we could have been back then, or we were back then and are no longer now. In all honesty, it really doesn't matter how fit or healthy or unfit you were in that past life. This is where you are now. This is where you're starting from now. And the only thing that's going to matter is what you do in this next day, in this next moment. So comparing yourself to that younger self is often detrimental because it is covered in biased visions of ourselves. And those biased visions often don't let us explore and develop into the better person we want to be now, because we're still being weighed down with, what if I'd done this back then? I shouldn't have let myself go back then. I should have kept doing this back then. All those back thens are now behind us. So the other thing with that is considering how envy also attacks our soul as well. Envy of someone else's journey that started 6 months before yours. Envy of someone else's journey who started 12 months to 2 years before yours. So envy can be the hard one to put aside. It creeps in, it attacks your soul when you don't even realize it. You're always judging others and their stories compared with what you're doing yourself. This is the biggest way to store your progress and stay anchored in a spot that you don't want to be in. The simplest, most effective thing you can do is simply put your phone down and look around you. What do I need to do next? That's all that matters. Number 4, this sucks. Yeah, good things often do. Sometimes making that effort to make the change really hurts. However, it's a good hurt because we're getting back in touch with our body that we neglected, our body that we let go, that has seen the rigors of accidents and neglect. This is the time to turn all that around. You can step forward through this pain because for the first time in ages, this is the pain you actually want to have. Yes, I'm hurting. Yes, this is uncomfortable. Yes, I can barely stand up some days. However, my standing will become stronger. My standing will become longer. And I don't need to stand on the edge of a cliff looking out and letting life pass me by. What feels like being sucky today will actually become easy for me tomorrow. This is how we keep moving forward. This is how we pay our debt. This is how we accept that change is difficult and change can be hard. However, I'm prepared to pay that price now, and I'll pay it in spades because I want to make my tomorrow that much better. Strangely, one of the biggest blocks we have in personal growth and improving our general sense of fitness is to be kind to ourselves, which is tip number 5. We all too often criticize ourselves. It's an all or nothing strategy, and it's either go big, go hard, or go home. Why are we often the biggest block to our own improvement when we are forever downplaying our role of the effort we're putting in, not being satisfied with how much we're doing or how much improvement that we are getting from daily? This is often the hardest to see because we're up close to the fire. Whereas if we look at ourselves over a week or a month, then you can see that grains of sand being added into our jar, and we are doing a lot more improvement than we realize. So tip number 5 is all about self-improvement and being kind to yourself rather than being your own harshest critic. Take a step back. If you have an off day, if you miss a day here or even sometimes a week there, doesn't mean the whole thing is completely wasted. It just means get back into it when you can, get started again, get back on top. You've made the effort to start. Now keep making the effort to keep improving. More often than not, we don't want to acknowledge to ourselves that nothing ever goes to plan. Life is full of twists and up and downs and troughs of despair, and yet we don't allow ourselves to acknowledge these facts. So simply being kind, let yourself have some understanding, let yourself have some breathing space, and just get back to it. Just take another step, put your boots on again, get back out there, start walking again. Even if you take 2 or 3 steps back, it's still better to be active and not skip 3 months or 3 years. Skip 3 days. That's a much better strategy. So be kind to yourself, just hang in there, and you will improve. I hope this really helps. We all have mental blocks when we're trying to set our own goals, and sometimes the goal setting is the easy part. It's the mental, emotional blocks that keep us dragged back to an anchor point that isn't serving us into the future. Be kind, and remember the most important person you can be kind to is yourself. Take care. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe and share as much as possible with anyone else that you feel may benefit from these videos. And always get as many high fives as you possibly can. Take care.